Jamani tunaishi vibaya sana.
Ni August should be Chan.
When Arambe says had an open training when they had open training.
You know, I actually remember that day like when Kenya lost to Madagascar on penalties.
Yes.
I remember like unge drop pin moja and the silence was just unreal after
Madagascar scored.
Not after Madagascar, I think it was hujama when you anaitwaje hujama Omija missed that penalty.
The penalty.
That was it was a very bad feeling, a nasty feeling.
Hadi muite jamaa wetu. But karibu sana SportyFM.
Asante sana. Pleasure to be here.
Yes.
And I hope we can discuss more. I think this is a lovely place.
Yes.
And tuongee.
Absolutely. Hapa tunaongea tu stories of sports, football, because najua when it comes to sport you're well versed. Sana hii ligi yetu despite all the challenges.
Yes.
Na me the best place we can start ni Tusker.
Yes, I hear you are a Tusker fan. By the way, I didn't know. Ndio leo nimepata fununu.
Wacha kwanza tutulie kwanza. The less I said about it the better. Bana like okay sawa, we Tusker just lost to Mathare 3-1 on Saturday. But it's a situation where I was actually telling someone I don't think Tusker have been the same team since 2022-2023 when they nearly won the league, lost out on the last day to Gor Mahia when they beat City Stars 4-0 I think it was, and then a week later they play in the FKF Cup final and lose to Kakamega Homeboys. I think since then Tusker hasn't fully recovered, and it's now actually reflecting even in the results. I mean, being 10th in the table right now for a team of Tusker stature, I mean Nikubaya. So what I know I might be a fan, but anyway
you by the way story ya new coach, you recommend it change of a coach, or will do have rather nani okay endelee kubambanya?
Personally, if you ask me, I think unajua like from what I understand of Tusker, what they've been trying to do is try and you know it's ultimately owned by EABL ultimately, so it's their CSR initiative. So basically because of cost cutting and things like that, naturally they had to try and trim down the size of the squad, and they had to try and trim down you know, players on massive wages and contracts. So definitely that calls for bringing in younger players who can try and grow together. And because of that, if you looked at their, you know, transfer strategy off season, you notice they brought in a lot of young players. Normally they are a team that, you know, signs established stars. We are talking about players like Kenyan, the Capaitos of this world, although he's back, but most of those players are young. Some of them didn't even have you know, KPL experience before coming to Tusker, the likes of Ian Simiu. So definitely that calls for you know, they need time. Arsenal abroad, you see what happened. Like, you know, when Mikel Arteta came in with young players, you see it took them a while before they started challenging, and right now they've challenged.
Still taking them. I know you're another fan.
Yes, but bottom line, I think that was their strategy. So I think it's a case of, you know, we call it short-term losses for long-term gains, but even at the same time, I think they also need a bit of experience if they are to try and mix it up. As much as you want to only bring young players, try and mix it up, bring in some experienced heads to try and help this team, because Tusker is a team that is expected to challenge for the title every year, you know?
Because they have always been winning.
Exactly. In fact, last season, with 2 games to spare, they were actually leading. And then we saw the capitulation against Sofapaka. I mean, I don't think walipigwa saba, you know? So, but from what I understand, that is what is going on. And then Pia, if they are to change the coach, and try and bring in someone else, you know, bringing in a new coach will effectively mean, and especially if it's a foreigner, which they normally don't do. But sources within the club tell me that if they are to bring in a foreigner, that would mean akikuja lazima watamtafutia nyumba, lazima watampe a massive wage, because remember that is anatoka abroad, you know. They have to, you know, give him a lot of allowances, which again is at the detriment of the club in terms of expenses. So ultimately I think that is what is affecting them at the moment, but I think they are actually better off staying with Okere for now.
Huyo kocha tulimuona kwa stands, I think.
Tulimuona kwa stands. But they, if you ask me, hawangi make your change. I don't think they
ama wangengoja until the end of the
exactly season. Because anyway the damage has already been done, and you've not given him enough experience to challenge for the title, and then you expect him to win. You know, it doesn't make sense when you have players that are not experienced or are not ready yet to be of the level to be challenging for the title. So I think hiyo ndo kitu ina affect at the moment.
Were there no plans post Matano? Because I think Matano is, when talk about Tusker in these countries, people always remember Matano, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like my generation is always Matano.
But you know, Matano turns water into wine. Matano is the type to turn water into wine. I know even right now at KCB, you see KCB started shakily, but right now they are, you know,
they're
wako katikati. But then again, KCB unajua they are a team that has a massive budget, but then what normally happens is at the end of, you know, they handle contracts on a yearly basis rather than traditional seasonal basis. Normally, you know, the seasonal calendar in FKF runs from, you know, August to May, June to July, to like it's exactly similar to the European calendar. But at KCB, they offer their contracts on a traditional calendar yearly basis. So as a result unapatanga a contract ya play imeisha by December 31st, right? And then they have to try and renew that contract. So wanaanzanga na mioto, and then ikifika katikati most of their players wanatoka, contracts zinaisha, wanaenda, hawaja agree on new terms, wanaenda. So a coach pretty much has to build the team again mid season. Ndio maana unapatanga usually wanaporomoka, but I think this time vitu zilichange. This time it was the opposite. Matano came in, Matano comes in with a lot of players. Of course these players you know, take time to gel and form a cohesion on the pitch. And then once washaivana sasa ndo results inaanza kukuja. And this time that is ndo maana unaona wako much more stable, even though they lost Jaco Nganya, who's now at Cadiz in Spain, and good luck to him, because it's actually good to see more Kenyan based players actually go abroad, and not just abroad, to, you know, major, you know, footballing countries like Spain, you know, because otherwise unasikianga watu wameenda Georgia, watu wameenda Sweden, but right now at least seeing a player go from KPL to La Liga 2 directly, I think championship is promising, especially as we build for AFCON 27.
But to stick to that point in terms of I think January has been such a big year for Kenyan exports in terms of our players going to different leagues abroad. And I'm just very curious, for the longest since I've followed the Premier League or just followed Kenyan football, for me this was the first time I've actually seen our players go to different leagues and actually sort of being important players or players that are respected sort of in terms of players when you wataleta change in a certain team. I don't know what has made that change for you. I don't know what you think has made that change in terms of now we have players that are moving abroad.
Okay, I think honestly I was I think Jacob Gosmule has spoken about this time and again. Actually, if you notice, they move abroad, but the first few seasons they struggle to get playing time. Even you know, Ryan Ogam right now is struggling to get game time at in Austria right now. And that's because I think the issue that we have as a footballing country is, and you know, Jacob Gosmule speaks about it so well. He speaks about building players from the rooftop rather than from the base, you know.
Sema tu bottom up.
Exactly. Hatutakupiga. Sasa yetu ni trickle down rather than bottom up. but that's a story for another day. But anyway, so as a result, by the time wanaenda majuu, ndo maana unapata kwanza wanaanza na kwenda team B. Like now, for example, Aldrin Kibet is at Celta B. Right now, Ramos Wanjala is at Valencia B. You know, right now at least ndo tumeanza kuona watu kama Job Ochieng. Right now is, I think he's now the third Kenyan to play in La Liga and the second Kenyan to play for Real Sociedad after McDonald Maria. But you see, even for him, first of all, when he left Ligidogo, first he went to another, you know, team in the 5th tier of Spanish football. I don't remember the name. Then he moved. Then from there, that club actually has a partnership with Real Sociedad. So after that, moves to Real Sociedad B, plays for Real Sociedad C, then moves to Real Sociedad B, helps them get to La Liga 2, which is still a decent level of competition. And right now, because players like Kubo are injured, right now amepata chance yake. And you can see already now, I think he's made 2 appearances, if I'm not wrong. So I think it's actually that's why unapatanga most of these Kenyan players when they go abroad, kwanza it takes them a while. But the fact that they are there in itself is still promising. Dennis Oliech, even when he went to Qatar and then moved to
Auxerre, Nantes,
to before Nantes, I think he was playing for no, he was at Ajaccio, but before Ajaccio, he was at Nantes. Nantes is the club that signed him from Qatar. You remember at first he wasn't getting game time at all. I think it took him like a season or 2. And right now he's already a starting striker for Harambee Stars. And Jacob Ghost Mulee asks the coach while he went there, why don't these players, why isn't, he's the best striker that we have at the moment in Kenya. Why isn't he playing? And that's because we don't give them sufficient enough footballing education such that they are able to instantly come and make an impact. And that's why probably saizi unapata Ugam is struggling to get game time. Even
on the bench,
exactly. And even ata Olunga mwenyewe, you remember when he left Gor Mahia for Jugadens, you know, he leaves Gor Mahia as a top MVP scorer, and then he doesn't play at Jugadens for the first like 6 months. And then after a while akapata rhythm saizi anacheza. So I think the issue that we have as a footballing nation is that kutokuwa na hizo structures in place that can allow these players wakienda majuu
immediately impact.
That's why unapata the ones who make it kwanza wanatulia, wa get to grips, and then wakishaona these guys are up to standard, now they are given game time, because ultimately at the end of the day ata makoju kwa majuu they need results.
Instant. True. Like instant coffee, right?
We are a very instant coffee nation.
Exactly. True.
Let's talk about Sofapaka by the way. Batoto ba Mungu. It seems that they could be relegated this year.
The thing about Batoto ba Mungu, we say they'll get relegated every year. They don't. They always find a way to survive. Not just, I think it was only in the last 5 seasons. I think it was only last season where they managed a top 10 finish. 2022-2023 they survived by the skin of their teeth.
Dakika za mwisho
dakika za lala salama, they survived. In fact hata walikuwa playoffs, and right now playoff imekuwa scrapped off. So right now it's a case of 3 going down, 3 going up. The season before last year walifika playoffs, ilibidi wamecheza playoffs na Naivas, and then ultimately waka survive. So I think for them what they need to do is I think they just need to, I think the season is still fairly young. I think 10 games to go is still,
is it 10 or 14
games. 14 games ni games mingi, because in KPL you just need a magic number of is it 35 points to effectively
survive relegation,
to survive 30 points.
Premier League ni 40.
Premier League 40. So who could ni
because we have 18 teams.
Exactly. So that means hiyo ni 30 points. So as long as wamehit hiyo 30 number they can survive.
They need like 16 to get to 30.
But now the only issue is this time, while before they were counting on the experience of players like Ham, who we mentioned before. Right now that team is imeja a lot of young players. And then something else, I think the coach at the moment, I remember they were playing against the FC Leopards. I think it was 3 weeks ago something.
Ile wali lose 1-0.
Yes. they actually played quite well in my opinion. But then now sijui mbona unajua at such a moment you need team yenye wamejel pamoja, wamecheza pamoja for a long time. So I don't know what iliingia kwa the mind of the coach Ezekiel Akwana akaamua for the next game against Gor Mahia he's going to make 6 changes, and personally I thought they played okay
as a unit.
Unajua saa zingine ball hudunda. So I don't know why he made those changes, and then I think Gor Mahia were dominant on that day. I think he beat them 3-0. So what they, for me, I think they need to do is just wacha kupanic. 14 games ni bado ni games mingi sana. I think and they ultimately they also have that established KPL experience.
Ama they need John Baraza to work.
Wamtoe retirement.
He's a club legend.
He's a club legend. Wamtoe retirement.
How to the workings of the
he
club.
knows how to score goals.
Yeah.
The classic poacher. So, but I think 14 games.
Yeah.
Ask me that question when they have 7 games to go. But right now, I think it's still too early to decide. Unless
wakapitulate tu ile kabisa.
Unusually I think right now is way too early to decide who will get relegated.
I think looking at the table right now, if they could just go like at least 3 games on winning, I think unatoka tu hapo. I think 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, because that is the beauty of this league.
3 weeks ago,
okay, 2 games consistent.
By the way, it's true. Hii ligi inakuanga hivyo, just win 3 games in a row. But that's the nature of Kenyan football. Huko chini there is a team huko chini in the regional league that I happen to be an official of. We started the season quite slowly, and that's because we had to bring in
tuambie ni team gani na kuna namba gani.
Inaitwa PCA Kikuyu Township FC. It's a church run team, ni team ya church. And then what they decided to do is they want to get boys out of idleness and potentially getting into vices and things like that. So at the start of the season, because the team was effectively new, we had to scrap off the whole team and bring in new players. Of course it took them a while kwanza kujel, because let alone being players kwanza hawajuani as persons. So we started shakily. I think we didn't get a win for the first 5 games of the season. But then we go for holidays, we break off for holidays, and then we have a significant mid-season boot camp. And right now I think they've won 5 of the last 6 games. So that is the same thing. No already from winning those 5 of the last 6 games, so wanaenda from number 13 in the league to all of a sudden now 4th in the table. And that is just a case of 3 or 4 games, so hivyo ndivyo, hiyo ndo niche ya ligi yetu ya Kenya.
And something else, another team that has been really flirting with relegation, that is Kariobangi Sharks. I don't know what has happened to Kariobangi Sharks.
Kariobangi Sharks is another team. Interestingly enough, I think in the last 10 years no Kenyan team has produced more exports than Kariobangi Sharks. I think Kariobangi Sharks development, model.
Their model,
developing players, nurturing youngsters, and then selling them for profit. And in the last 2 years, you've seen a couple of them even move to Sweden. Players like Stanley Wilson. So right
I think
now
eventually it's catching up.
Exactly. Now it's starting to catch up with them in terms of results. They always survive. The only issue is that at the end of the season, some of their best players are picked up by better teams. Because at the end of the day, if you are ambitious as a player,
so ndio Kante alitoka.
Kante huyu mwenye ako Shabana. So hiyo ndo situation wako now, and then hata juzi wameachilia kina Steve Biko mwenye ameenda Nairobi United. So hiyo ndo issue yenye wanakuanga nayo. So and it's actually impressive that they've managed to stay a top flight team since 2018. So that's 8 years now. And maybe it might catch up with them, but like I said again, 14 games to go, bado ni too early in the season to decide who will get relegated and who won't. So hiyo ndo shida yenye wanakuanga nayo.
I don't know if you love Monday ball. Are you a fan of Monday ball?
Monday ball? Monday night football. Monday ball.
Osborne Monday ball.
Osborne Monday.
Osborne Mande, very good coach.
Yeah.
I think he briefly coached Kariobangi Legends after retiring before now moving to Sales. I think wame pick up vizuri. I think hata last weekend wamepiga Kahawa Pride 9-1.
Yes.
So and I think they also have, you know, significant backing. You know, they have their own stadium, Murangasil. I think with Murangasil everything is actually in place.
Do you think they have fans there? Have they built a situation where the community around that area is supporting Murangasil? Because we always believe that football is local and football should be community based.
But you see, this is a team that was founded pretty much 9 years ago. So yes, as much as they are trying to build around, you know, the Muranga community and trying to tap up the whole central region community, you can't compare that to Shabana, Gor Mahia and AFC, teams that have been in existence since the you know 60s 60s and then Shabana but unaona, even so for them unaona hiyo sana for a long time inamaanisha wametap up community. Shabana wametap up the Gusii community, you know, Gor Mahia wametake up Nyanza, you know, AFC wametake up Western. So you know, unaona, it's we are talking about 40, 50, 60 years of so I think for Murangasil pia wao, because Central as a region generally is not really a footballing region. But I think
which sport do you love those side by the way? Kama si football.
Central ni wanapenda games kweli? Hapana.
But there's something somebody told me about 2 years ago about footballers from that region. They don't produce many footballers, but sometimes they really produce very technically gifted footballers.
Like Waithera.
Joe Waithera.
Once in a while we tend to produce.
Selikuwa wazito. Alikuwa wazito. Joe Waithera is a player with significant you know, KPL experience. So but you see, you know, how ni one in a few
one in a few years.
And then pia I think you know, let's be honest. Okay, sawa, there is this notion where we speak about you know, kama vile in athletics we say Rift Valley is the cradle of
the hotbed,
you know, the hotbed of athletics. Kumekuwa na hii notion where like in Kenya cradle ya football iko Western and Nyanza. I think so sasa unapatanga most of the coaches tend to go to those regions instead. But me I'd probably disagree. I think I'd say like I said, there are some technically gifted footballers in the country, but I think we need to start diversifying, you know, the scouting network all over the, you know, the
like
country.
when you watch Kachi, exactly, you know, Kahata was fantastic.
Kahata was
a joy to watch.
You know, a joy to watch. I think he won. Okay, although Kenneth Muguno, although you know, but you see, ultimately, I think his dad is from Meru. I think I'm not wrong. So unaona pia that shows ata Coast, you know,
Coast as well.
Saga is also a joy to watch.
Exactly. So that shows we have talent all over the country, but it's just a case of how do we, you know, diversify our scouting network
and mix them up.
And this is why I insist, and this is why I'm so happy and with the new sports bill that was recently proposed.
The draft.
The draft. What they want to do, if you read it, one of the things they want to do is they want to start collaborating now with the sports ministry. You know, right now with CBC, right now, you know, this new model, si kama sisi watu wa 844 when ulikuwa unaambiwa soma kijana,
at homologous series
at sijui osmosis and sijui what, you know. Right now, I think that's what they ought to do. Because at the end of the day, wanasemanga most talents come from you know, a school based setup. Like now in Kenya, you know, the best model or the easiest model of scouting talents
school games
is school games.
It's school
but
games.
and we have
so
had
far,
so many
yeah.
footballers who have come from, let's say, government African school in Kakamega.
It's St. Anthony's.
Exactly.
St.
St. Anthony's
Joseph's.
right now.
St. Joseph's.
St. Anthony's right now, I think the class of 2023.
Yeah.
3 of them are now in, 2 of them are, 3 of them are in Spain.
Wanjala. Aldrin Kibet.
Nani Manzu.
Yeah,
right now
yes,
for France. You
yes.
see? So, I think what they need to do with those school games is, I think they need to reformat them into more of a league phase format, because the only issue with knocking out teams from zonals, from regionals and things like that is people only pay attention to schools that get all the way to national level.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might be a talented player, but because kama last year Green Commandos walichujwa sijui districts na Musingu, does that mean atijua amechujwa?
There's no talent pale.
Ati because the team ilichujwa hakuna talent hapo. So I think what they need to do is they need to reformat school games at least kukuwe na situation at least and regionalize them such that kila team at least iko na guarantee ya kucheza a number of games through the league phase and league format vile unaonanga with Champions League, because that way for a player to develop that player needs game time. lazima acheze otherwise na for a player kutambulika by the national team setups and things like that lazima acheze ajishowcase kwanza, akicheza ndo akuwe spotted. Otherwise akitolewa zonals na akitolewa district na any player maybe a talented player atijuu shule yake haikuproceed hata anakuwa victimized, career yake inakufa tu hivyo. So if they can restructure school games to that, I think it will help us out and enable us now to tap in more talent, to tap out more talents, not just from the western regions but also
across
the country as well, because that is the only way hata itatusaidia pia tukuwe na a sustained pipeline at youth
in terms
level.
Of talent,
at youth level, isikuwe ati sawa tumequalify AFCON under 20 and then we won't qualify for another AFCON in like 10 years, that shouldn't be the case. Even for the girls, isikuwe ati sawa because now they've qualified for the 2024 under 17 World Cup, this is the 2025
awako.
That shouldn't be the case, and I think that is the only way tutakuwa na tuta create something sustainable.
Yes, and there's Absolutely. Something you alluded to earlier on in terms of there's this conversation that has been going on for a while in terms of Kenyan football. Corporate teams versus community teams. When I look at our table, almost 13 out of the 18 roughly are sort of corporate. So this is, I'm putting together corporates, that is KCB's, Bandaris, and of course the defense forces, that is police, Ulinzi, Nini,
and the
PSS, those ones. So let's say about only 3 or 4 teams are community based. So for you, what do you think in terms of, do we need more community teams? How do we go about it?
I think that is a very good question.
And
I think that is a debate me and Kwanya have actually had it off here for quite a number of years
sema
now.
Sema tu nataka communities.
Unaget. So I think hata ukiangalia maju like we like paying attention to EPL sana. Like if you really think about it, all those teams ziko owned ama certain communities have embraced it. Like now for example Arsenal, Arsenal ni Islington, hapo North London. Ukienda Liverpool, Merseyside, Merseyside. Everton, I know wewe ni Liverpool fan lakini sasa in fact you need to inafaa pia uanze kuleta accent ya Scousers, but ultimately as much as those brands have gone global, hata zikianza they had to start with by building their own communities. So I think it's just a case of hizi teams zenye ziko what do they need to do in order for them to attract a larger fan base, because team kama Tusker 12 titles, 12 KPL titles, but now because they are CSR club, unaona like how many fans actually attend.
But it's difficult even for a fan to connect with that club.
Exactly.
In terms of team one time inaweza amka team itkwe disbanded ifungwe because it's more or less, as you said, it's sort of a CSR.
Yes, it's a CSR.
Yes, so how do we go?
The only way hata wanapata nini funding through their mother company. You see, that has its advantages in the sense that yes, financially wako stable, you know, players hawatawai kosa mshahara nini, and that is another issue maybe we'll get, I don't know if we will get to. But on the downside unapata yes, as much as teams iko backed by communities na maybe hakuna, you know, a legal parameter in place to allow for, you know, some of these clubs to also adopt corporate models.
Because, there's that bit as well.
Because even even for those community clubs, they also have to be run corporately.
Exactly.
To make money.
But now in Kenya, that is not the case so far. Tanzania right now, Simba and Yanga are run like corporate teams. You see, because what that does is it allows, as much as yes, community yes in our own, at least as a significant share of the teams. Ultimately, you also need equity from partners that are coming in. Because bila hii equity, how will you make money from a commercial perspective? Because 3 ways of making money is through commercial deals, you know, signing up commercial deals, you know, match day income, you know, that is tickets and merchandising, and then broadcasting, you know?
As well.
So mi husema once we are able to get all these things in place, like, you know, Kenya tukue na, you know, a legal parameter yenye ita allow maybe Gor Mahia can now be run as a corporate club such that yes, the community can still own hata kama ni 50 plus 1% of the club,
but 49 is owned by
49 well, let's say you see the way hata La Liga ilikuja kusaidia Simba, you see, and right now you see Simba and Yanga now you know among the best teams in Africa. They are getting all the way to Champions League finals and Confederation Cup finals, whereas 6 years ago mlikuwa mbele yao. Right now tuko nyuma yao, you know. It's very unfortunate. So I think once that is done, I think itatusaidia tusonge mbele. And once you know, the league is uplifted through teams like Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards now adopting corporate structures that will allow for more sustainability, that will allow for more accountability, which is important. I think sasa ita elevate stature ya ligi such that hata more broadcasters can come in. Na broadcasting right now ndo iko na pesa mingi hata kushinda match the revenue tickets. Like true. You can see
we depend more by the own broadcasting.
Exactly. But right now we can't be saying ati Azam peke yake. Yes, they've done a good job covering our league, but it can't only be Azam that should be, you know, covering our league. We also need to attract more broadcasters, not to tap into as many
other audiences.
Audiences as possible. Do pia elevate league yetu, because I think lastly, as I wind up, unaonanga vile in countries like Egypt or even Morocco, let me use Morocco, Wydad walikuja huku, Hakim Ziyech, who was actually, you know, winning the Champions League with Chelsea in 2020, right now can afford to come to Wydad.
And they can afford him.
Yes. Why can't we find ourselves in a situation where AFC Leopards, Victor Wanyama, legend of the game, ifike point yenye anaweza rudi AFC Leopards? Because ukisikia former Tottenham, Southampton
now playing for
KPL, that will only elevate KPL.
You know, people just interested to know KPL.
But for that to happen, these are the structures we need to put in place. Though at least ligi ipate more exposure, because otherwise tutakuwa tunashinda tu tukimark time.
Absolutely. Before we get sporty updates, let's talk about police.
Yes,
the champions bana. They don't look. But they're like the Liverpool champions in England, really.
We tulia pia. Relax. How are those two things correlated?
Liverpool wako position 6, police wako position 6.
So ama unasema ni juu waliholdiwa to a draw recently na nini? Inaitwa police derby.
We were trying to figure out the name of that derby. Inaitwa ni
men in uniform derby. Because of course it's a very boring derby, really, because
they draw a lot, by the way.
Exactly.
And then there are no goals.
But again,
this time moja though, lakini
hii ni game pia watu wakishinda hata usikiangi kelele. Unajua AFC na Gor mmoja akishinda unasikia kelele. Hiyo kelele ndio inatanga ladha kwa ligi. But then imagine a situation where ulinzi wameshinda, then it's just
exactly.
The only noise I hear is Xavier Macharia pekee.
Yeah, inakuwa ngapi peke yake.
And again, interestingly enough, hizo bado sizo unaweza ziita CSR models bado. Cause you know police ni Kenya police and then ulinzi
yeah.
So I think again hizo ni corporate model, so kitambo wa track that kind of fan base pia. I think to be fair it might take a while.
They can't
can I give a solution out of the box solution? Why not have these teams, these the corporate teams up, okay? See, these the Bandaris nini. Why not try sponsor the nini teams, the corporate? No, not the corporate, the community clubs.
Yes.
For me, I would rather have a league with 10 teams, but they're all community clubs. And then these other teams, these corporate nini when you sort of CSRs, come in and sponsor and support these teams.
Unajua actually in Vietnam they do that. Kuna time Alan Wanga alikuwa anachezea timu iko Vietnam. Before he came back to AFC that season when I think he scored 7 goals in a row. And alikuwa anasema the same thing. In Vietnam that's how it is. Like kama ni NCBA or whichever nini it is, maybe whichever company it is, if it's a bank, but now them they are backed by banks. So let's say for example kama ni KCB, badala ya wakwe na timu yao sasa
they invest on FC Leopards,
wana invest
into
FC
on Shabana.
Exactly. Kama ni Equity, I think Equity wako na timu Cote d'Ivoire, badala ya NSL actually sorry, kama Equity wako badala ya kuwa na timu yao wana
invest, you pick a team and invest.
I think that is something that can work because it will pia kitu ingine itafanya, it will sort out issue tunakuanga nayo ya player welfare because you know wachezaji wanasema hawalipwi nini. I think that's not news anymore. I think as a country, unless like you said, like you have that backing from a company or maybe a community from time to time, unapatanga saa zingine it's very difficult, especially
because it's expensive to run a club. Owned. It's very expensive.
Like now Sofapaka, that's why I give a lot of respect to Presda Kalekwa, because all those years Sofapaka have been a KPL club without being relegated,
and it is his man inatoka
kwa mfuko yake. But it's not easy. It's
very expensive.
Even like I said, hata hiyo team yenye the one that we run sasa unapatanga like you have to dig deep into your own pockets. It's actually not easy, and I think these are conversations that need to be had in order to create sustainable structures that will now allow us. You don't now have to see a player leave Kenyan football to go abroad. Sasa anaweza jiundia pesa yake hapa. Morocco are doing that. South Africa do that. Egypt do that. But kufika hapo ni rahisi. It's just if people agree to come together for one common cause, hiyo ndo kitu itatusaidia tusonge.
Absolutely. Wacha tupate sporty updates ndio tuzidi na hii conversation. Wacha nilikwambia chep that when it comes to Kenyan Premier League Mark anataka like 7 hours.
Look out, home run.
Top story hits, no misses. The Sporty Update on SportyFM.
Kenya's most decorated female boxer Liz Andiego has turned professional and will make her debut on February the 27th, 2026 in Nairobi against Tanzania Chiku Idi in a 4-round super middleweight contest at Mars House. Andiego has signed with Kalakoda Promotions with a move approved by the Boxing Federation of Kenya, allowing her to compete professionally while retaining eligibility for national team duty.
Yes, and Kenya Open Golf Limited has unveiled a 12-man professional team to represent the country at this week's Magical Kenya Open at Karen Country Club, with Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria urging the players to compete and as contenders on the global stage. The Kenya Open Golf Limited chair, that is Patrick Obath, said that the squad increased competitive exposure should translate into improved results as the 144-player field from over 30 countries tees off on Thursday, with Kenya fielding the largest contingent and South Africa led by defending champion Jacques Kruwiski.
Gor Mahia head coach Charles Akono, aka Good Life, praised his side's tactical discipline after 2-1 win over APS Bomet in Kericho Green Stadium, a result that stretched Kogalo's lead at the top of the FKF Premier League to 6 points. Early goals from Ebenezer Asifwa and Jackson Duang sealed the victory, despite a late reply by Ansel Ochieng as Gor moved to 43 points, 6 clear of AFC Leopards, who drop points away to Bandari FC.
And US Stars crashed USA Stripes 47-21 to win the 75th NBA All-Stars game final, with Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey leading the charge. The youngsters dominated from the start to finish, as Intuit Dome securing Edwards the MVP award.
That is a Sporty update, so at 3 minutes after 12.
Look out! Home run!
Top story hits, no misses. The Sporty Update on Sporty FM.
Absolutely, welcome back. We are having a conversation, of course, tunaipenda sana. Watu wanasemanga ya kwamba tio media in Kenya are not giving Kenya Premier League what it deserves. We are not talking about Kenyan Premier League nini. Sisi, what are we doing here really?
We are cooking.
We are cooking. And what a way to cook when you have Mark Kinyanjui, because nakwambia
what a build up. What a build up. Wait.
Mark wajua.
Yes.
First of all, mi upendanga passion uko nayo when it comes to Kenyan Premier League.
Yeah.
That's what we need really.
Yeah, that's what we need.
We need to talk about it.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
That's not what we need, because again, like I said, unajua, even generally in life,
yeah,
you know, you might be having a well-paying job, but you don't actually enjoy what you are doing. And if you don't enjoy what you are doing, chances are you won't give it 100%.
Yeah.
That's what we need. You know, this general sporting landscape, not just football, but general Kenyan sporting landscape needs, you know, inataka ujitole, you know, ultimately. And if we have people who enjoy what they do, I think it will only translate into, you know, better days down the road.
Before I ask you, because there's this matter of Gor Mahia really, which is very important, but before I ask you about Gor Mahia,
I know where you want to go, but I'll let you ask.
Do we have to, Mark? Do we really have to talk about Gor Mahia?
It's very important.
Do we have to?
It's very important.
Anyway, you know, Gor Mahia, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, Gor Mahia hata ndo huuza magazeti. You know, in Spain unapatanga, you know, they have a magazine where like their biggest sporting publication, unapatanga like the first 6 marker, I think it is. Their first 6 pages. Kwanza unapata the first 6 pages ni Real Madrid, then we will get to Barcelona. So by the time akina siji Valencia coming up, hiyo ni page 14 na huko 15. So to be fair, I think I'd go down and say maybe Gor Mahia is the premier club in the country at the moment.
Coming from a Tusker fan really. But before that, I hope ulikuwa Nyayo Stadium over the weekend.
Yes, I was.
For the rugby. Yes. I called you last week, ukaniuliza unakuja rugby. Anyway, that's a story for another day. I want you to nataka tu get your mind in regards to what football can learn from rugby. What we saw in rugby, because fans walikuja. I thought also the organization was fantastic. It's something that we don't see it without football.
Okay, first of all, you have to remember this was the first time in history while rugby brought, you know, a HSB 7s, you know, albeit Div 2, but you know, it's the first time it's ever been hosted. It was ever being hosted in the country.
And the second time being hosted in Africa.
And the second time being hosted
after
South Africa.
And
South Africa hosts it every year, you know, but for Kenya,
first time.
You know, I think it was the first time. I think it was a considerable success. Let me call it a considerable success. Of course, there were a bit of, you know, challenges here and there. But I think, you know, anytime you are starting something, of course, naturally, hata chan. So, naturally, lazima kuwe na tu hiti.
Chepa alizungushwa ni Kasarani.
But ultimately, I think it was a success. I think one thing you have to remember is that the rugby fan isn't, the typical rugby supporter is not the typical
football yes
supporter.
Very different
in rugby kuna kuanga na hii story ya vibes, good vibes,
sherehe.
Then after that
and they spend their money.
Umesema niache kuwa politically but generally even in hata ukikana fans there is kuna kuanga na tu hiyo vibe ya it's like you belong to a family, watu wako tu hapo tu kujipamba and then after that of course there is of course your after party and whatnot. And also the nature of seventh rugby in itself ni blitz haraka 7 minutes 7 minutes faster 7 minutes second half ishe next game hivyo. So because of the fast paced nature of the sport and because there are several games going on concurrently during the weekend, naturally watu wako tu hapo tu kujipamba, and I think hiyo ndo kitu pull crowds ultimately, because pia unapata the typical Kenyan rugby fan hukuja day 1 hakuji day 2. Jana I was surprised because jana unapata watu I think ni watu walikuwa watoka makanisa nini and then wakakuja, but by 3 p.m. ground ilikuwa imejaa hivi. Anytime Kenya is playing,
the noise levels ziko juu.
The noise levels are just on another level. A very electric atmosphere, fans, anytime whichever Kenyan player scores, unapata the stands, everyone is in delirium. So I think what we can learn from that, I think I told you this 2 years ago, Kwanya, that maybe to attract, more fans to come and watch, Kenyan football, maybe we need to bring in these incentives, because ultimately wa Kenya wanapenda sherehe sana. So, ukiwaambia kuna kasherehe after
na kuna chakula.
Food
is important, by the way, and I've insisted on that thing for a long time.
Na kuna chakula because kulikuwa na vendors wengi sana hawako wanakubali watu wa
and then they didn't provide a solution or an alternative pale nje.
Exactly.
Yes.
$1 complained about that, by the way.
Even me, I complained for the longest, by the way.
Yes, so I think those are the few incentives they need to bring in. They've already brought in, at least right now, unaona at least football wame embrace what Super Bowl do. Where unajua Super Bowl, most people are there for the halftime show. Kuona, who's their celebrity singer. Because ultimately you have to remember, most of the fans hawajakuja hapo kuwatch ball peke yake. Pia wamekuja
the casual ones. And then you need to know you have casual fans and real fans.
80% of sports fans are casuals.
Yes.
Not everyone, digs deeper into game the way some of us do or other people do. People are hapo like I have had a rough 5 days doing my 8 to 5 job. Give me something worth entertaining me. Nifanye ni relieve pressure. That's what we need to do, and that is and that's why mimi ukiniuliza, I think that is something FKF needs to embrace. Tafuta vile utaleta masherehe, even clubs. Tafuta vile after game kutakuwa na after party nini, because in rugby that's that's tradition. I think hiyo ndo itapull more fans, because ultimately fan atakuja juu ya sherehe, but then maybe atabambwa na anaona kwa uwanja. Then that way you buy yourself a new Gor Mahia fan, you buy yourself a new FC fan, you probably even buy yourself now a new KCB fan. In any way, these corporates are the ones who should be trying to do
because
that.
They have the budget to do it.
Because they have the budget to do that. Tasker of all teams, the obvious elephant in the room. Maybe that's how
na kuna vitu za sherehe pia.
So it helps. That's how you can pull in more supporters to come and support the game. And the more stakeholders we have, the stronger the game will be.
But there's something I've always told Kwanya, in terms of our not corporate but our community clubs, they really struggle to attract new fans. And every season you need to have a strategy to attract new fans. Kosi ule fan mwenye aliwatch Gor Mahia ikiwin title yake ya kwanza that atakuwa hapo forever. You need every year you at least attract a certain number of new fans.
Absolutely.
And I think our corporate clubs are really failing. Tuna assuming fans watakuja tu. But fans you need to give me an incentive. Why should I support FC Leopards?
Exactly.
FC iko na nini? Kwanza our players ni kina nani? You need to give them an incentive, and they are really failing. As much as you have lots of fans, but you're failing to attract the new ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So ni Gen Z. Gen Z was si kama millennials. They're attracted by different things.
Like
so you need to know how to bring Gen Zs.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
na unaona hata maju, that's how they do it.
Yeah, they
Liverpool,
true.
Unapata, someone was born in 2017 2018 na unaona already akona full
Liverpool
kit yake,
yeah.
Full kit yake, na hakuwa anajua Liverpool ni nini probably 3 or 4 years ago, because of the young age, but right now probably one of the biggest supporters. I think that's what we need to do. We need to come up with strategies every year as we evolve. Evolve with the times. His generation ina relate to nini?
To what exactly?
Millennials how I relate. Okay, millennials kind of might relate to what Gen Z do, but the later Gen Zs that are moving towards Gen Alpha, how what I relate to nini? I think that's what we need to do to to make sure mafans wanazidi kuongezeka.
And in that breath also we also need to tell our fans, but tukienda study, one of the another way to also bring new fans is let's make stadiums pia safe. And that safety pia inaanza na CC kama fans ambao tumezoea kwenda study, because clubs awanzangizi they don't start the chaos, ni sisi mafans tunaanza chaos. Mention Super Bowl halftime performance. Tayadok was here by the way a couple of weeks ago. Alisema that thing of halftime performance hawataki.
Ati hawataki
wao kama supporters, kama team choir, because ina interfere na their you halftime ndio wanatakanga wao the decibels zikwe
wakwe.
But now if you bring Prince in acheze, you have killed it. And even gave two scenario that ile WHS Homa Bay which they drew, na hii WHS hapa Nyayo which Gor lost. Kulikuwa na performance at halftime, so hawataki na kuna superstition behind that. So
nini inaribu halftime performances, inaribu results on the pitch.
Maybe by the maybe there is a point behind that, because unajua pia unapata even for us as journalists, normally hata mimi personally, if you ask me, I prefer interviewing these athletes and coaches after games zishaisha. Meanwhile kuambia unaona vile 7 siko inaisha and then unaita player, anakuja anaongea, but bado anajua kuna game nyingine later, because that is the nature of 7's rugby. Unapata like wako na 3 games in one day or 2 games in one day, so mindset yake isha shift to
hiyo game nyingine next.
But unaona with football, like hapa tunaongelea, yes I understand his point of view, but hapa tunaongelea pia what can we do to make ultimately attract more fans and make our league more sellable. Ukiambia mafans hizi ati wakadinali wanakuja kuperform halftime, na wengi wao ni Gen Zs, especially from Eastlands and things like that. Are you trying to tell me that they won't come to the stadium? Watakam. Wamezoea kusikiza,
they can even rap to that song yao yote.
So mbona wasikuje halftime kuona tu like
what is happening,
their favorite artist ameimba. And then sisha let's wait for second half. Huyo fan mwenye hakuwa anajua the first thing about football ameona kitu ikambamba. You've just bought yourself an extra fan.
Absolutely. I think tukimalizia, because Kenya naongea. Should we add another one now? Producer saa nyingine, but anyway. Before, because I want to save the best for the last. I'm doing
this. Kuna team haujaongelea bado.
I'm coming here. I'm doing this deliberately. Let's save the best for the last. Let's talk about Shabana then FC. I think Shabana, they're doing well in as much table wise, 34 points now, sitting third. And you also have to give it to their fans, really, because I think for the last Tangwaingi League, they have they're the team that has had should I use the word religious fans that has been following this team to wherever they go. Like over the weekend walikuwa Kirinyaga. And I saw fans walienda Wanguru Stadium. I don't know what you make about Shabana so far.
Okay, I think Shabana's trajectory has been on the rise pretty much since they struck a major deal with, their major partner has come through for them.
Yes.
Really, their major corporate partner has really come through for them. I think before they signed that deal 1 year after coming back to KPL, and they hadn't been in KPL for 20 years. I think the last time they were in KPL was 2006.
Yes.
Came back in 2023. I think that was. That's 18 years. That's an 18-year gap we are talking about. And then they managed to, survive relegation because, most of their players, again, they didn't have a lot of NSL, KPL experience.
Yeah.
So, of course, it was always going to hit them hard unless they had, significant resources to beef up their squad and instantly challenge. But the fact that they were able to survive, it earned them, it made them more attractive for more partners. And now that partner that came in right now has come through for them in a big way. Right now, unless yes, maybe there was that ati watu wajalipwa, but I think that issue was resolved. Right now you can see hata ukiangalia record yao, I think in their last 5 games they've drawn 2 and lost 3. Yes, as the recent form table shows. So that means everyone is motivated, everyone is singing the same hymn sheet, and everyone badly wants this title. I don't think they're going to win it. I don't think they will, because they are 9 points behind Gor Mahia. They're on 34. Gor Mahia are on 43. But this is a step in the right direction for them, because last year they finished 5th or 6th. If I'm not wrong. The first season they finished 14th, just surviving relegation. But it has come through for them. And with Shabana fans, if you've analyzed their behavior, when they are doing well, grawitaja, but when they are not doing so well,
wanaingia kwa nyasi kidogo.
I don't know, I don't want to call it fair weather,
but I don't think whether that's a Shabana fan problem. I think it's entire
Kenyan fans.
Because even Gor Mahia kuna time they are not doing well.
But now unaona even Gor Mahia right now you are doing well, and fans only come for the big one, the Mashemeji derby. Apart from that, sofa set fans mnaita sofa set branch.
Sofa set branch.
The loudest.
Ama niju, I think mliona mmefanya ligi kwa such a monopoly to the extent now. Now you don't need you have 22
and even now that Gor Mahia wameanza kufungua gap. There are chances that one have a few of their fans going to the stadium, because watasema
itaji defend,
and especially if AFC Leopards wataendelea na hii momentum, their positive momentum of at least the challenging, utapata by the time your derby na imefika, now it will go back to the heights of 2012 and 2011. You remember back when in 2011 2012 I remember Mashemeji derby was like, and you used to know 3 weeks before
that something big is coming.
And I think AFC Leopards actually doing well might help.
They need to be close.
Exactly.
They need to be just there.
Someone told me the other day that Gor Mahia needed FC kuamka, ndio pia waamke. You remember during Christmas when FC were top of the league?
Top of the league.
Gor Mahia beat. You are not so sure about Gor Mahia. So they needed Mashemeji waamke sasa ndio wapi wa serious. And I think that competition is very good for the league.
It's good for the league because everyone starts paying attention to what's coming. Like I said, when I was growing up, I think I remember, that was in the era of Super Sport. Hata kama huendi grao, you already know these players because Super Sport package in such a way that you already know these players, you already know
kina Dancer
Nkuma, you already know
Edwin
Lavatsa, kina Edwin Lavatsa, Ramasalim. You remember when he used to score goals for fun by making late runs into the box. So I think AFC Leopards doing well might again attract even more broadcasters to come and start broadcasting the league. At a Sporty, maybe that's what you guys
absolutely
you need to let's elevate the league to that level.
Absolutely.
So I think the better they do in terms of results on the pitch, the better for the status of our league.
So far this season, which team has impressed you in terms of what you see on the pitch? Not forget about the table. when you sit down and watch a football match, which team you unasema hii team yenyewe inani entertain. Wanaweka mpira kwenye what chap like saying
carpet football.
Yes.
Hey, that's
I was saying Taska.
Good question. Hapana. Sese Mataska. I think what I will say in terms of entertaining football that gets me off my seat.
Yeah.
I am actually going to say lakini ni tricky. Mimi ukiniuliza, I think Homeboys wameni-impress personally. I have enjoyed watching Homeboys play. I have enjoyed watching Homeboys play personally. Maybe because of their maybe their football might, their directness. There's just something about, even Klopp used to play very direct football, high octane football. Hata unaiona uko zile za is that, I think Homeboys excite me. I will actually say AFC Leopards, I've enjoyed watching them play. I think I've enjoyed watching them play, especially since Ambani switched to more of a 4-3-3 setup.
Since the derby.
Since the derby, switching to a 4-3-3 setup, using 2 free number 8 akina Tyson. You know how Tyson likes
and
to
I think
play.
since he started playing Tyson, I think
akina Tyson, as one number 8,
and then Kinyanjui the other side
on the wing.
Nani on the Kinyanjui is a winger.
On the wing.
Nani Masaba is a winger, and then the two number 8. Tyson amekuwa kicheza as a free roaming number 10 alongside Ujama Kelly Madada.
Kelly Madada.
And then Nani Pele.
Musa Ondo.
And you like him a lot. You like it. By the way,
even me, I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan
Musa
of him.
Ondo. So I think I have actually, because we call it wacha siji niseme je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais quoi is that pretty much unpredictable. Ability, that quality to be able to do the unexpected. Eccentricity. I think Tyson is a very eccentric player, and he allows he brings a sense of creativity to the team. So I think since switching to that 4-3-3 setup, I have actually enjoyed watching them play. So
those two teams.
Those are the two teams that
any players who have stood out for you this season?
So far.
I really have to really think about it because mimi naangalianga most times naangalianga the teams, naangalianga from a team perspective. And I think one thing I'd say is that a lot of teams have played as a unit so far. I think Jackson Doang, when he was at Posta, he was doing so well after before aende Gor Mahia. He's a player that has really stood out for me. And I think if he continues in his trajectory, I would be surprised if he's a real contender for MVP. I'd also say since joining Gor Mahia, since returning to Gor Mahia, Franco Dhiambo has really,
and he comes out as a kind of versatile player, because whenever Charles akifanya changes in the central defense, when he brings in, let's say, Mike Kibuage, he doesn't sub. It doesn't sub Frank. And I let us Frank in the middle of the park.
And that is because Frank is very good on the ball.
There
is a reason he went to Jugaden that early, because there was promise, and then he has pace. He's very nonchalant on the ball. He's very good in the air. I think he's scored 2 goals already, if I'm not wrong, from set piece situations since joining. He's another player that has really stood out for me. I think I'd actually say he's okay. I think he's been at Gor Mahia only nearly 2 months now, but I think you have to call him a signing of the season already so far.
And if Gor were to win the league, I think right now,
I think James Kinyanjui's Kinyash is getting back to the Kinyanjui of Mathare United. The one that used to get fans off their seat with his 1v1 sense. I think he had gone dormant kidogo vile alienda KCB, but right now I think he's he's coming back up. I think he's another player that has really impressed me. I think those are the 3 players that I might say when you wame stand out sana for me. Even Sesonjo, who this striker from AFC Leopards has also come up well, very nicely. Those are the 4 players that will really stand out for me.
Absolutely. I think tumefika wakati wa kumaliza. Sasa tumalize na Kogalo. Mayenga
Gor Mahia. Na saizi kuna factions mbili za Anthem. Kwaya ni mbili sasa. Yes, I don't know why that is, but we need a united choir.
So long as both choirs are supporting one club, kuna shida gani?
Nilikwambia muite tu mkutano, msolve maneno. Ni vitu kidogo tu, watu tukomeza watasolve.
I'll be honest with you. When Gor Mahia maybe are hosting like a home game, like a home AFC, you know, a home Mashemeji, and they're the home team. Kuna mimi nasikianga hizo goosebumps time, you know, the anthem. Gor Mahia. Like una feeling kana kujanga once. Na unajua mimi si fan wa Gor Mahia na niko na hizo goosebumps.
Sasa si toka Tusker sasa. Come and support where goosebumps zinatoka.
Niko ni vibes. Inakuanga vibes.
What do you think about Kogalo? They are now sitting top of the table, 43 points, having played 20 games, and of course even I think they are the team that has scored the most, the most goal difference, the most points. Despite the fact that sai ukiwatch Gor Mahia, still this you are not convinced as a fan, but they are winning. What do you make about them?
But you see, you know, we said the same thing about Jonathan McKinstry, and McKinstry won Gor Mahia.
No, but McKinstry, team McKinstry was very good defensively. I think I remember there was a period he went like 4 games winning 1-0.
Yes, 1-0.
You don't win 1-0 every game.
But now you see, Gor Mahia is about winning. As long as
the manager is doing his job. I've been telling Kwanya. It's about the 3 points.
It's about the 3 points with Gor Mahia. Because mimi, I have seen Gor Mahia. Last season, you had 4 coaches.
Yeah.
You know? You had 4 coaches. and you know...
But even I'm curious, I know you've supported Gor for a long time. When is the last time you watched Gor Mahia and enjoyed the football? To watch a title. When is the last time?
Maybe
it goes even 5 years or even more than 5 years.
Have to take it back.
Which team did you enjoy?
Kina Williamson, Nuttall and Kerr.
Maybe.
Who was the coach then?
Frank Nuttall and Kerr. Dylan Kerr. And of course Bobby Williamson. That period I think Gor Mahia were playing some nice stuff. Maybe because of the quality of that.
But you remember, Octe came. Yes, the football wasn't particularly swashbuckling, but you got to a quarterfinals of the CAF Confederation Cup. You know, I think with Gor Mahia, you know, Gor Mahia is like Real Madrid. You know, you saw Xabi Alonso get sacked by Real Madrid after just 6 months, and that is simply because you know, maybe the results kind of inconsistent, and also because, you know, the inability to manage big egos in the dressing room. I think Gor Mahia is at that point where, as long as you guys are winning, as long as Gor Mahia are getting results, I don't think it's about the football. Because right now, when AFC Leopards is on your neck, you know, just nudging you guys, just making sure that you are not comfortable, I think you'll take any win. A win is a win at the end of the day. Maybe you might say the football might not be sustainable, but you are getting wins ultimately.
Sometimes let's win, but we enjoy.
Hiyo kuenjoy utangoja for a while.
There's no need of, hakuna raya, yes tulishinda, but how? That how part is very
maybe I told you, as long as it's 3 points. Tuseme say you go on and win the title. Conversation itakuwa Gora tu kucheza vizuri. Sitakuwa tumeshinda kikombe. End game.
If you listen to so many of Gor Mahia fans, what they're saying, it's not what you guys are saying. But anyway, the most important thing is the 3 points and get always being top of the table and aiming for 22nd title. Are they winning it?
I think you have to. You know, right now is still very early in the season.
Mark, we're back in 14 games.
14 games ni mingi.
Ni mingi kwa ligi yetu.
14 games ni mingi.
But the rest of the pack are not consistent.
You know what I'll say right now. For right now, I think yes, you still have to put Gor Mahia as favorites to win it.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe because of that. Ultimately kuna hiyo Jose Mourinho used to call it football heritage.
Yeah.
The spine of that team, hata kama you lost Austin, I think the spine of that team was still part of the team that won the titles in 2023 and 2024.
Yeah.
You managed to keep hold of Alpha. You have Sylvester who won the last 2 league titles.
Yeah.
You've got I think those are some of the players that has Akina Ochuoga are still there.
Lawi bado wako kwa bench.
Lawi ako kwa bench, but that experience bado ina rub on to the rest.
Yeah.
So I think, and then plus the fact that Akono has brought in his players with some
the Ghanaians,
some of them with European experience. So I think you still have to put them favorites to
Absolutely.
win it. Because with Leopards, as much as they are doing well, Leopards, their Achilles heel is one and one only, and that's why they lost to BB Bread. That's why they lost to BB Bread. When the game is poised and tight, where you're trying to look for your players to try and win games for you, but saa zingine imekata.
Yeah.
The tactical understanding of the coach to say, maybe let me try something different to see something unpredictable to see if it's going to work. I think that is AFC Leopards only Achilles heel, because otherwise AFC Leopards kitu inawasaidia pia, and that's why they're doing well, is because the spine of that team has played together for such a long time, a 3 or 4 year period, to the extent that they can find each other blindfolded. That is very significant in football. Chemistry and understanding
the
on
synergies,
and off the pitch. Nayo ni kitu inawasaidia sana, because this is a team, I think anaitwaje huyu coach
Awesome.
Not Ausems. Okay, Ausems used to play good football with them, but after he left, there was TJ, Tom Juma came in, and then there was this coach. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name.
Yeah.
He's from Czech, the one who took over after TJ.
Truka?
Yeah, Truka. I think Truka kind of laid the foundations. I think no. What I'd say, Ausems laid the foundations because most of those players were coming from Div1 teams, others were trialists, people like Casey, people like Musaundo, and then after Nani laid those foundations, I think Trucha ndo alijenga hiyo nyumba mpaka ikafika kwa rooftop. So right now it's a situation where Ambani who actually worked under Trucha as assistant, right now ndo anaeka mabati na sasa
na kuplasta alafu na kupaka rangi.
That's why they need to win this league to try and keep that core, because if they don't win it
ni makosa.
Ni makosa, kwa sasa wachezaji watasema I need to go to a place now where I need to start winning, or maybe launch their professional careers abroad.
Absolutely. I think that's the best place to kumaliza, but your last word in terms of Arsenal, because
even me I wanted to ask Arsenal winning the league, if at hiyo tu with 1 minute
you know what,
because najua mnakuanga na excuse mingi.
I think what I'm going to say is
na explanations mingi na inaitwa superstitions.
I think the Carabao Cup will either make or break Arsenal season.
Okay. That's nini against Man City
in March,
22nd March.
Yes, that will either make or break the season, because what that does is, because Arsenal haven't won a cup since 2020. So most of these new players hawana hiyo experience. They don't know the winning taste of winning a trophy for the club. So what that might do is, if Arsenal win that cup, it will either give them motivation to go for more, or it will break their season. And the reason as to why I'm saying this is because in 2011 Arsenal were in contention for all 4 titles.
Then
they play
quadruple.
with Birmingham quadruple. Then tukacheza na Birmingham City Carabao Cup 2011. And then the game is 1-1 stoppage time. Koscielny and Szczesny
did that thing.
I don't know what they did at the back. then all of a sudden Obafemi Martins anafunga tap in, and then anaenda ana celebrate, and then he goes on to say that it was the easiest goal of his career, and after that capitulation. And then at the end of the season unaona kina Fabregas wameitisha release, wanataka kwenda Barcelona, kina Nasri ndo hao wameenda Man City, yes. Only Van Persie remained, but after a season akaenda. So that's why I'm saying Carabao Cup everything hinges of that Carabao Cup, because if they win that Carabao Cup, then I think they might win. If not,
Bala. Capitulation.
Wow. But I hope we win it. Because I also want revenge on Man City, because what Man City did to us in 2018 during that final, huniuma mpaka sahi.
Mark, thank you so much. Asante sana, by the way, for finding time kukuja. Hopefully tukikuta tena. Let's do this more.
Part 2. Ukuje tena.
Definitely. I think I enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we were just getting started. Isipokuwa ni producer amesema time is up. Mbona walileta hii system ya kengele? But I hated bells in school, because unacheza na wachezaji wako, unajifanya vile wewe ni Ronaldo hapo kwa playing ground, alafu unasikia kengele ati unarudi kulala darasani. Hapana. But anyway,
to have second half.
Yes, we'll have another.
Definitely.
Yes.
All
right, that has been our conversation in regards to the Kenyan Premier League, everything Kenyan Premier League, and tutazidi ku have this conversation more and more. That has been Mark Kinyanjui. When it comes to Kenyan Premier League, is one of the best to talk to. Time now is 37 minutes after 12 noon.
SportyFM, beyond sport.